So Fujifilm just dropped their new and greatest and latest firmware 7.10 for the XH2S and XH2, also the GFX 100 series, and it's an exciting news. I am super excited. I don't look it, but I am very excited. The update brings in even more and much better autofocus performance, and it also introduces the F-Log2C, and these are the two I'm going to be introducing and also focusing my attention on in this video. According to Fujifilm, it handles high chroma colors like deep blues, reds even better. This means that you get richer and more accurate colors and the flexibility when it comes to editing in ACES and broadcasting in BT709. So in this video, I'm going to test out the new F-Log2C and the improvements for the autofocus. I'm also going to compare the F-Log formats in the test to see if Fujifilm delivers what they promised. To make it even more interesting, I'm going to be comparing Fuji's very own native lenses with the Viltrox lens to check out their performance, see how they measure up with third party as well. So how do you update your firmware? Well, updating it is super simple. Use the Fuji X app to wirelessly connect your camera via Bluetooth. Once paired up, tap the display back button on your camera and the app will guide you through the downloading and installing the firmware. Now, a quick note in terms of how you set the autofocus settings. I'm going to be setting the continuous autofocus. I'm going to turn it on. AF mode multiple tracks me across different points. Face detection is also going to be on to prioritize my face when the camera is focusing on me. AF to MF, I'm going to set that off. Previously, it caused a lot of interruption when I was testing. I will try and test it again to see how it measures up. Tracking sensitivity is going to be +1. Autofocus speed is also going to be +1. I'll start with these settings, then tweak and see how they impact performance as well. So stick around as I test the F-Log2C and the autofocus with these settings. Let's see if Fujifilm's latest firmware lives up to its hype, its reputation. Now, links to more of these details that you can use to download are in the description below. So let's crack on. Let's see how it looks. I was surprised by how much data F-Log2C holds. At first, I thought the difference between the previous F-Logs and F-Log2C would just be minor. It wouldn't be much of a difference. But as it turns out, the new log massively expands the color gamut, going well beyond the BT 2020 broadcasting standard that we know of. So if you check out the chromaticity chart, F-Log2C basically sits below the aces and above everything else that you can see in that chromaticity coordinates. This means that you can convert your footage to aces color space, and for grading exposing, we're going to have to wait for gamut C for Davinci to come out because it hasn't come out yet. But for now, Fujifilm has provided their 3D LUTs and the IDT to make sure handling this footage is much easier. For this test, I kept it extremely simple. I only exposed the footage. I didn't do any grading, secondary or primary, and I didn't even do color balancing or even noise reduction. So it's a fair comparison, I think. Anyway, what I noticed is that the F-Log2C delivers deeper, less saturated red compared to F-Log1 and F-Log2. The footage didn't feel flat when exposed. It looked much more natural, which meant that it would be great when it comes to grading and the skin tones and exposing the skin tones. The orange and the yellows in the footage does not look washed out at all either, which means that it's closer to the original footage when compared to the other two that I tested. It seems like Fujifilm is trying to align their new gamut closer to the camera's native sensors, and it's amazing. Like, this means that they're trying to push the limits. They're not trying to stick to just their BT 2020, making it much more efficient, optimized for color processing. In short, F-Log2C gives you less color compression and a color space that works across multiple display types. So this is fantastic. So how does F-Log2C benefit users and those grading their footage? So if you're very new to grading, well, it allows more colors to be reproduced, giving you the freedom to tweak and manipulate your image without worrying about clipping or crashing or getting any unusual artifacts. In my previous video, I explained the concept of a wider gamut as being like mixing more colors and getting more colors, with the color space being the canvas itself. With F-Log2C, you get a realistic lifelike hues, a much higher dynamic range to play around with. This makes it much easier to pull out details from the shadows. And that's what you get. It's like I said, it's like being an artist with a bigger palette and also a larger canvas to work on. With more room means that the more details you have to play around with to immerse your audience watching your footage. This is a huge step forward for Fujifilm and filmmakers across, especially those who love Fujifilm. It's also a bold move for the company as they aim to carve out a bigger share of the filmmaking and the videography industry as well. It's clear that they've positioned themselves to compete with the APS-C camera shooting in 6.2K open gate and even medium format right now. So they're pushing their boundaries, and there's a lot of talks about Fujifilm releasing the GFX Eterna camera, which is going to be exciting in 2025, the Cine camera, and I'm looking forward to that. It's a strategic play. They understand that the full frame market is overcrowded, which means that they don't want to follow a simple pack. They don't want to follow it. They want to lead an untapped market that is less saturated. So right now, Fujifilm already dominates the APS-C market space with the X-H2S, X-H2. Like, now I think they're setting their sights on the bigger players owning the medium format space. So we'll see. These are exciting times, but I just noticed I also went a little bit off tangent, and forgive me for that. It's just a usual habit of mine. So let's deep dive into the Autofocus firmware updates. This is what you came here for. So let me try and explain what happened. So I tested it with eye detection turned off to see how well it tracks. Since I was the only subject in that frame, I tried moving around, even use other objects like the plants behind me to see if it would detect them instead. It did pretty well. It held up to it most of the time. It stayed locked on me. Even when I set sensitivity and speed to the lowest level, it still picked me as a subject up instead of the plant behind me. To push it further, I cranked up the sensitivity to the highest setting that I can think of, which was 4 and 5, and even tried all sorts of moves, spinning around, turning, you know, the condition that you see outside if you were video recording, changing angles, and it did pretty well. It couldn't detect my face, and if it couldn't, it just fell back on my body until my face became a lot more visible. Honestly, I was impressed, especially how it handled the Viltrox third-party lens. Fujifilm lens also worked extremely well, as you know. Now, on the downside, eye tracking had some hiccups, some issues. It completely stopped detecting my eyes at times, and also it defaulted to focus on my body, which didn't make any sense because it's meant to be tracking my eyes. On rare occasions, it couldn't even detect me at all. I couldn't even see the boxes. This happened for both lenses I tested. So if you're filming, I think you just have to stick with face detection instead of eye tracking for now. If you are wearing glasses, you may have to take it off, or you may have to find a way to manage it. Or if you are standing far away from the camera, it might cause some issues. I haven't yet tested it on multiple people in a single frame, but I would love to see and hear your thoughts. What you think? Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. So overall, I think Fujifilm did well. They did great. Even if you think they didn't do that well, I mean, compared to the previous, it's a noticeable improvement, and this is good. Thanks for watching anyway. So if you enjoyed this video, check out my previous video on color spaces for even more tips as well. Stay tuned, catch you on the next one, and I'm out.